YouTube, what's good, man? I'm back here with another banger. As you can see, we got a low. We're gonna do a low drop fade on my boy, man. We're gonna do a low drop fade. So as you can see, we're gonna start off first. Make sure we combing the hair up. When you combing the hair, you want to comb it with the grain, not against the grain, but with the grain. And as the hair grows, you want to do it with the grain as far as like where the hair grows. You see how I'm doing? Going at every different angle which his hair grows. That's how you want to comb out his hair. So my client requested to be cut down with a 1.5 guard, and we're gonna have it closed. Just to keep it thick, my client likes his hair kind of thick. He doesn't like it as far as like, with the one guard. With his hair, you'll start to see like his scalp because his hair is not as thick. So we're gonna cut it down with the 1.5 guard. As you can see, his lineup is very like thin. So if you cut it down with the one guard, it will make his hair look, it'll start to look like he's balding basically. So we're gonna cut it down with the 1.5 guard close. And as you can see, I'm gonna start to comb his hair as I cut his hair down because you're not gonna just get it with one pass. You have to, comb his hair as you're cutting it down. See, you have to comb it. Cause I promise you, you're gonna hear, your clippers crunch. Until you stop hearing your clippers crunch, that's when you know all the hair is even. So you're gonna want to keep combing. And you see how I'm going with this crown? Like when you're cutting the hair down, you want to go with the crown. You want to go in the way it grows. And the way the crown grows, you're going to flip your clipper that way, and you're going to go that way. Like basically, it's really simple. You just want to make sure you're cutting in the way the direction of the hair grows. Cutting in the direction of the way the hair grows, basically. And you can see here, I'm making my first guideline, and I'm going to keep it really low because he wants a low drop fade. I used to have that mistake of making my guidelines a little higher, and it wasn't really like a drop fade. It was still a drop fade, but it was like a drop mid. When you're doing like a drop fade like the one he wants, you're going to have to drop it like really, really low. It looks weird when you first start off, I promise, but as you keep going, you'll be like, okay, yeah, this is a drop fade. And here we're just gonna come on with our trimmers, and we're just gonna clean all that up. Clean it up. You necessarily don't have to go as far as all the way into the first guideline that I made, but you just gonna want to clean all that loose hair up so we can begin our fade process. edit, yeah, it depends. It all depends on how you record it. I ain't gonna lie, it really don't take an hour. You gotta do that voiceover, and then like, it depends on how you want your video. So right here, the camera did get a little blurry, but we're gonna start with our first initial guidelines. You can see, you wanna make it about a 1/2 inch, man. And don't be afraid to keep going over it, because the more you go over it, the more that guideline is gonna be, basically. So don't be afraid to keep going over it and make your 1/2 inch. Because you can remember, we made the first guideline with the clipper closed. So it's gonna be very easy to get that guideline out with the clipper closed. When you make it with the trimmer, it's very hard to get that guideline out. It's very, very difficult for beginner barbers to get that guideline out. Okay, what you set it in with is what you're gonna take it out with. If you use that trimmer, you're gonna need the trimmer. You're gonna need to flip it over to take that guideline out. You use that clipper. All you need is that clipper to take that guideline out. So whatever you put it in with is what you're gonna take it out with. So I think making the first guideline with your clipper make it so much easier, especially if you're a beginner barber. So here we're gonna start to just notch that guideline. All you wanna do is have that clipper, you're gonna put it halfway, and then you just go notch that guideline. As you can see, it's already coming out, it's already coming out. Just like that. But you still got more work to do. You're gonna just make sure you put it halfway and start to notch that guideline. Some people like to put theirs, to the third, about 2/3, but I usually skip that. I wouldn't recommend it for if you're a beginner. I wouldn't recommend it. It make it easier if you do 3 steps to take that guideline out. But I just make mine halfway and then I close it to take the guideline out. And as you can see here, that guideline is basically gone, but I like to take my time when I'm taking that first guideline out, because how you start is how you gonna finish, man. How you start is how you gonna finish. That first guideline is like the main piece to the finished project. If that first guideline isn't out or isn't blended all the way, your finished product is not gonna be what you want it to be, basically. How you start is how you finish. That's for anything in life. Now here I'm gonna start with my 2 guard, and I have it closed, because basically how I think is when you cut the hair down, like say you cut it down with a 1.5 guard, you're gonna use that guard that's right above it to blend in the fade with that guard, if that makes sense. If you use the 1 guard, you're gonna use the 1.5 guard. Say if you go to a 0.5 guard, you cut the hair down with a 0.5 guard, you're gonna use no guard on your clippers to get that. So see right here, I'm going to use the 2 guard to begin my fading process, and I like to fade down. I don't really like to use guidelines after I get done with that last one. I just like to fade down. So here I did end up skipping to my one guard and use my one guard open. I recommend though as a beginner barber to use that 1.5 guard and start off with that and fade down. But for me, I've been cutting for a little minute now, so I like to just go straight to the one guard open because it's equivalent to the 1.5 guard. It's basically the same thing, but a little bit, you know, y'all know what you're doing with it. So here I'm going to be detailing a little bit at the top, but I like to just skip straight to the one guard open because it's the same thing as a 1.5 guard. And as you can see here, like I like to use my corners, like even though I'm not even like detailing yet, I still like to use my corners whenever I start to fade. You always want to use them corners. I promise you, using the whole guard will mess up your fade. I like to use the whole guard like basically at the bottom, like of the bottom of like the guideline, and then at the top I'll use my corners. Just makes it easier to fade. You said someone work on Sundays? I used to do Sundays down there in Texas. Nah, I ain't gonna lie, I ain't charge. I just doing a regular price on Sunday. Like I would do that down here too, but I'm a whole hour away, so kind of hard to like down there, man. I was like 5 minutes from my job. We just show up and yeah, I was like 5 minutes. Yeah, so I ain't really mind it, cause I was right down the street. I ain't mind it. I go cut one person, and then I go back home. Now here I brought out my .5 guard, which is called the half guard, and we're just gonna notch at the bottom of that line. We're just gonna notch at it. You can see I'm only using like half of my clipper though. It looks like I'm using the full clipper, but I'm only using half of it in the corners, cause that's how you're gonna get that guideline out. If you use the whole thing, if you use your whole clipper blade, sometimes it could like push the fade up. So you don't want to use the whole clipper blade. So right here, the fade isn't finished. It might look finished, but it's not finished. We got some detail what to do. So when I detail, I like to bring out my babies right here, man. These my masters. I love to fade with my masters, man. I love to bring these out. These like they complete they complete the job. Like these are like one of my favorite clippers, especially when it comes to detailing because the blade is long. So it gives you a lot of room to like detail with in order like other clippers, the blade aren't as long as the masters. The masters are very long, so I like to use my masters, man, when it comes to fading. I mean, when it comes to detailing. And as you can see right here, I seen a few dark spots. So I put on my one guard, and we just started notching at them dark spots, man, notching at them. You see how I'm only using the corner of my blade though. Don't want to use no more than that. Let me know if you seen these dark spots in the comments, man. Just want to notch at the dark spots right there. Boom, boom. Look at that. Just like that. So I wish I would have recorded this back spot whenever the back of the head when I was, doing the drop fade. But I just wanted you to see, like, this is how a drop fade is supposed to drop in the back. You see how when we started that first guideline, it was very, very low. But as you can see now, it's not that low. Like, you have to start your guidelines very, very low to get a drop fade like this. I used to start my drop fade like so high and it'd just be a mid fade, and I'd be so disappointed, man. But you can see I'm just detailing the back of the head, getting that fade together, man. It's a beautiful fade. Beautiful fade. I did. I only went to one though. It was cool. I wanted to go some more, but when I was down there, they weren't making it to the playoffs and stuff. So here's when I like to do my C cups. We're gonna start it right there. As you can see, I didn't take off much hair right there, but this is where I really take off hair. When I start from the bottom, then I just meet to that top part, meet to the top. That's when I like to take off the hair. And boom, that's what I like to call it a famous Chicago C. And then here we got a little bit of the lineup, man. I was sad I couldn't get all the lineup in the video because it started blurring. I got to figure out my camera focus on that. But when I do my lineup, I like to start from the middle and then I move to his weakest side. Which his weakest side, he doesn't really have too much of a weak side, but I would say his weakest side is definitely probably going to be that left side. Well, his right side, but my left side. I'm going to move over to that side. As you can see, he's thinning a lot in that side. But man, this is the finished product. A nice, clean drop fade. We did add a little bit of enhancements on it because he was thinning in the left side. But this is the finished product, man. Straight fire drop fade. Fire. Lionel fire. Man, let me know if y'all like this tutorial. Leave me a like, give me a comment, and I'm out.